Well, hello everyone. My name is Matthew McGuire, and you can also know me as like Matty Make 25. And you see right here is I went and put together right here is like a little logo right here, top of our State of the Union address for 2017, and talks about for President-elect Donald Trump. And before I show you some more examples right here of some of my designing work, I went and put together right here of this right here would be like a sign right here. Basically talks about for accounts. And if most of us have seen from the other activity talked about for State of the Union 2017 that you see right here is that talks about for like jobs or anything about that I was talking about is about making America great again, about anything that the American people would have concerns or matter about. And one of these things, of course, goes by mistakes and failures. And I know that that's one thing that I also want to talk about ever since the State of the Union 2017 post I posted up about 2 weeks ago that I was want to also mention about is to where how we handle it to whenever we fail something. And usually that people say that some people that use that word or phrase is to word it, yeah, that they like what you call it. It's like a tease. I'm like, whenever people say that you failed this or hey, you failed, but really that if fail basically seems like sometimes it seems like to where that some that may use that word in like a wrong way, and I've had the time to where you've heard that word so many times to where it seems like to where if we want to look at it, it's like a joke, like some source. I don't know if we want to call it like a anything such as what you call just a tease or something like that. And I know sometimes that teachers may you look at as to where we got to take the test again. Oh, just kidding. Like a just kidding type remark or something like that. But you see right here is that with using InDesign right here and talk about for State of the Union address for 2017 as well as for succeed and for fail. So if anybody warrant or that any students that may warrant toward it, yeah, that if they're going to be in school and taking a test and think as to where how to handle it whenever they wind up failing the test. But you see right here is I went and put together right here is these sketches right here. You have right here is the president is like the for the Trump family. You have right here is like for Tiffany and Ivanka and then Eric and then as well as for Melania and then Vera and Trump right here. So you have altogether that I think there's about 3 boys and then 3 girls, something like that, and then along with 3 grandchildren or something like that for the Trump family. And so you have a few of the members of the family right there, and I know that if I say that, yeah, that looking at some of these other children of President Donald Trump, and what I know about their ages and as well as their source of education. And on your hand, I also want to mention about mistakes and as well as for trilogy. And if anybody wants us to about trilogy, I guess it's basically that if you want to look at it like a collection, it's to where you're going to have maybe your favorite, if it's maybe your favorite characters, your Disney shows, or maybe collections of maybe your favorite animated movies, or if it's puzzles or games or something like that. Comic books that basically that you're going to have it to where they call it like a trilogy. You have what you call one of the top known favorites of all, and I guess if we want to look at this as like maybe like a U.S. coin, like any coins, if anybody wants us to where you want to go ahead and not just spend the coins, but you want to go ahead and collect the coins. The coins that could be worth about the same value amount, but then they were what you call made and then created in like a different source in times or so of the years. And one of them that could have been what you call made from back in the early 1950s or something like that, like maybe the dollar coins as well as the silver silver bronze like any source of coin make it is. And so that's just a thing though that if anybody warrants us toward it, yeah, for the future of America that we warrant where if they're gonna have it to where that they're gonna start making these coins that they're gonna be worth about maybe $5, or maybe if they're gonna change anything related to like what you call between $5 and $20, or maybe $100. or so that the money that goes to electronic form, and as well as that it's not going to be all printed in like say dollar form, but still that talk about for like seems like anything's possible for a future, right? But still for United States of America that I usually say is to where that like say for fouls big bucks, but let's just say that this was like a chore right here, and I think by warrants to where I included this right here, like the foul right here, and with anybody who's going to be having accounts, and I know with like the president though to be talking about the State Union addresses to her that nowadays with most of us who would be online nowadays that they would be managing a lot of they would be handling a lot of their information on the World Wide Web. And sometimes, I guess what I say is to where that you may have heard that before, to where just like maybe other search engines, to where that if most of us have heard of like Netscape or AOL or any other type of internet site, internet browser, to where that before it was like that the kids could not spend any longer than 10 hours a day or something like that on it, but then some of them are going to be on there 24 hours a day or sometime some amount of time, and like one tour you're going to be using it for what you call the required purposes, and it's like say you're going to have an account online and a number of things that you can do online, and just think of one thing that maybe you can't do online, huh? I'm like, well, really, I'm like, I don't think you can do your laundry yet online, do the dishes or the laundry, but still, that whenever that time comes, and I'm sure they may say that you don't even have to worry about laundry soap. It's like it's all pre-ordered in the package or something like that. But anyway, but talk about right here are for like accounting as well as for failures and mistakes in trilogy. These words right here I want to mention are also about the president's speeches, to where if anybody say that about the president, the things to expect about the State of the Union address, for what makes America great, making America great again, and for to the Americans, and like one to where that how do the American people handle it when a failure that comes that occurs for anything that goes, and then how to handle about the fixing and then the situation about the mistakes. So you're like Warren toward it for if anybody warns us toward it that for anybody who's wondering about is to how to handle a situation to where that something fails or a mistake that comes around. And so that's just a thing, though. If anybody say, yeah, recently, if you recently, you didn't do very well on a test, or you lost a job, or maybe didn't do very well raising money, or maybe you didn't do very well on what you call anything that was originally planned, and so that's just a thing, though, that if anybody warns us toward it, something that's what you call beyond the plans, that you're like warned toward it. Okay, Mr. President, here's the problem, and so that's just a thing, though, is to where what it takes to be able to show great progress to each and every time. So talk about for a long story. So let's just say that if anybody were to ask, the question is to where that do I have to be an expert in order to be qualified to speak up and ask a question, just to be hired on a job? About the problem is, and it's plus for any assistance that I need, and it's like the help that I need. And so that's just the thing. If anybody who's going to be what you call asking a question, and sometimes the first thing that they may mention about is to where that they really don't want to speak up very clearly, just because of the fact about that they feel like that they don't have what it takes just to be able to complete get the job done, or just to say is like to where that somebody asks a question, but then they know the answer, or they have what you call these thoughts about how they want to answer the question, but then have to first that they may say is to where, well, I am not an expert, or I don't work for the company, but still I'll just give you my best guess. And so And if anybody wants this tour, what would the president say about his tour? That if anybody were to try to answer a question and they want to provide a guess, like they want to guess or assume about what the situation is going to be, and about how many of us are going to say that just take a guess. I'm like, so because I know that sometimes teachers that they don't like anybody that they say that don't like it whenever you guess something. That we want a reasonable answer. It's like, do you know for sure? You're not sure at all, but and at the time, it seems like you really just have to have that source of a proof of evidence in front of you just to be able to estimate as to where that, yeah, this is what's going on. So any case of the matter is to where that, yeah, that if you're 100% sure or you're not sure at all, we'll take a guess. And sometimes, even if I take a guess, I guess that basically means is to where, yeah, if there's a guarantee that you're going to have it right, and if you do get it wrong about how you handle that also. But talk about for trilogy, though, if anybody wants as to what trilogy basically means, and I've heard that quite a bit about. Besides, the movies and then the video games, it's like, yeah, basically that it's a collection, if you want to call it like a collection. But like a trilogy, and how about how many of us are going to use that word or phrase, for trilogy, such as talking about maybe for the dollar coins or some sort. But my source of education would come from is to where if anybody says that, yeah, that for anything about what you call a long story. And if anybody asks a question to me, then possibly I might say, it's a really long story, and it was a long time ago, but then about how many people would probably say is that they were willing to sit down and ask, and then you'll be willing to listen about about the whole situation also, until that they actually see the actual situation that's going on. It seems like that's just really about what it is to where that anybody say about any situations that's going on, and that they're like one to where that it's a long story, but really that for who's willing to sit down with you and willing to talk with you about the problem as well. And if anybody were warned toward it, some of the kids or anybody that they don't want to speak up about something, maybe because that they think they're not going to listen, or maybe about that for how important it is. But still, that really about how many of us are really going to speak up about a situation that comes up to where that that thinking as to where if it's a real big deal right now, or if it's just a little bit of a big deal, or just not so much of a big deal. But whenever the president were to be talking, and if anybody were warned toward it, yeah, that instead of pointing the finger at so and so, and just think about as toward how to be able to fix the problem also, and then as well as for the things about what you call talking about the new jobs, and for jobs and sorts of education. But one thing I did want to mention also is about accounts, though, if anybody wants to. But I'm sure most of us who are at least 17 or 18 years of age would have an online account. And with this online account, that you basically do a number of things with it, and you don't listen to music or too much of that on there, other than if it's related to the TV. But still, if you're going to be paying a bill, or maybe going grocery shopping or anything like that, that you're going to be opening up an account just to be able to take care of something. And I guess, do we call that a job? I'm like, if anybody warns us toward to ask the president, is that considered a job, even though that you're not really? I'm like, if anything, it only pays. If anything, it only pays about maybe three times a year. I would say on average. So let's just say that you're getting paid $120 a year just to be able to manage your own account. And if anybody will warrant toward it, at least 120 or maybe at least 130 times, $130, for each and every American or so, that they could be getting paid at least $130 a year for what they do online. And if anybody will warrant toward it, based on our taxes, though, is to where that I guess this all depends on. You can maybe say it depends on almost everything, but let's just say this all depends on maybe about if you made a decent amount, or that anything about what you call about how much money that you made from a job, and as well as anything about anything else that's released on a tax return as well. But still, that talk about for the Trump family, that this is my Photoshop work right here. So I know that these, but the sons right here, these three boys, that I know that use a little bit more work right here. But while I was drawing this, it was like, yeah, that didn't really have any ideas about what all the children of the Trump family look like. So this is basically about how I sketched the work. You have it here for Donald Trump right here, and you have it here for Barron Trump, and then you also have, see here, I guess that this right here, Melania, I guess the wife would be, so I didn't include everybody. I guess that there's altogether about 6 kids in the family. So if anybody warrants this to her, that about that Donald Trump and his family, that I did not include everyone, but still, that if anybody warrants this to her, that really that about what you call you making America great again. That like Warren Tour talk about each and every American, about for which one of them that could be qualified for this or that, and then talk about for the future also, and talk about for accounts too. But that's one thing I did want to mention about is about accounts, because that I know most of us nowadays would have a Facebook account. And if anybody who's going to have a Facebook account, or maybe on Twitter, that they may warrant to, that let's just say if they do find a job on Facebook, and you're like warrant toward it, yeah, that you get a job working at a clothing store, and this is how you got the job. That they say to apply today on Facebook, be signed on to Facebook to be able to apply today, and there could be job ads posted up on Facebook, and the chances are that you'll probably possibly get a job, working at a clothing store or somewhere, online, even from Facebook. And if anybody were toward it, that what you call these toys, and sometimes if anybody were to want to ask the president about, is to where, yeah, you bought it as a toy, but then it became a career. How many of us are going to say that? You bought it as a toy, but then it became a career. But still, that if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, you'd be playing in the sandbox, and then you don't expect to find a job there. But still, until you find a treasure map, huh? But still, that on their hand, that talk about for the State of the Union address, is that with anybody who's going to have a question about something, and like I mentioned about on the other videos about the State of the Union address, is to where really that is to try to think about, is to where if anybody warns, to where you're going to have these presidents who are going to be running for president. You're going to be having these these what you call you're going to have these politics that who's going to, that they're going to want to try to be campaigning and want to run for president. And sometimes you see that quite a bit, to where that they want to go ahead and point the finger at each other. And so it seems like to where it's all about what you call like an argument, to where that who could be doing a better job of this or that. But still, that but talk about here of for anything related to like what you call for a better job, though, that really any American that they may ask as to where what it would take just to be able to make it show great progress each and every time. So even though that you're working on something and you can't guarantee it's going to work, that you're thinking that what you call there's risk, or maybe there's concerns in the matter, to where that what if this fails, and want to make sure that you got a backup plan. And if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, that for anybody that may warn toward it, yeah, well, if you fail once or you fail twice, the chances are that there ain't no guarantee you're going to be trusted, to be able to accomplish that job again, or something like that. But still, that if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, a lot of things that the president could be talking about at the State of the Union address. But one thing I did want to mention also, for accounts though, is talking about the internet, because I know that quite a bit of our education is going online, and I do wonder also as to where that yeah, that if anybody will warrant toward it, about what you think that, the president should be talking about also. And unlike if anybody warrants us toward it, think about is toward that anything about what the president will be talking about. And sometimes at the first question they say, well, they start talking to, before they ask a question or before they start talking about something, is to word it, yeah, well, are you still going to accept me for being American, even though that if I got problems understanding something, if I didn't do very well on a test, and that maybe that I got denied an application, or I did not get approved on the insurance plan just because of what I got, or maybe because that I got poor credit. And if anybody were to say that, you know, uh, and half the time that wanted to where when is the president going to be talking about people's credit? I'm like, especially on a credit card and credit. It's like you got some application, some companies out there that might deny you if your credit is what you call less than 40 or so. I don't even know what the credit requirement is, but if your credit is less than perfect and you're trying to take care of something, but still that maybe not everybody's going to be perfect, but still that I guess I don't know if it all requires is to where it goes by saying is to where lesson learned. You overdid it, or you abused your privilege to use the credit card or to how to spend your money. So it's basically shows us to where well, bad credit. It's you got to take care of that matter first before you can move on to the next step or so. But still that. But talking about for files though, and I know that a lot of files that goes like for electronically, and if anybody warrants us to it, that basically what I mean about for accounts though is to where that this right here may look like what you call just any other ordinary thumbnail file right here. This file right here that says file right here. But then let's just say that it contains about maybe 300-page document of something important. Let's just say 5 years or so of taxes that were what you call updated, and then if they were reviewed, and if they need to be what you call processed at a certain time, or they need to be to keep them somewhere safe, anything like that. Anybody say you gotta do your homework and keep something in the file safe, and so as of right now, that it would look something kind of like this right here until you click on it. It tells you about what's in the file. So a lot of stuff that's going electronically, and you're like warranted toward it. That for if anybody warrants us toward that, be considered a job right there. And how do we handle it to where if anybody warrant to where how do we handle it to where that talk about for fail? If anybody warrants to where people use that word of saying to the point to where they want to look at it as like a tease. So if you wind up failing something, and then how people handle it to where that you fail something, and does that basically mean is to where that they're not going to give you another chance to take care of it or to fix the matter? They're just going to go ahead and find somebody else, or it kind of looks bad on you, or anything like that. It's like between succeed. So for great progress and succeed. So if anybody say that, that you have these two words kind of close together right here, but then on your hand, that just think about as to where that for anything involves what you call for great progress. That anything about between fail and then that succeed. And if anybody warns us toward it, that usually that it looks pretty kind of bad on anybody that is to where whenever something fails, it seems like to where that that may mean is to where not too many people are going to count on you to get the job done. We're going to count on you, or going to trust you really just to take care of the matter. So if anybody were to say that they want to ask the president about the State of the Union address, as to where that after 7 times in a row of failing something, and it's like that you may say is to where I'm not taking a test again, or I'm not doing it again because I'll fail again. Really, is it all about is to where to keep working on it until you see some great progress, until you're able to succeed. If they are willing to give you a chance to be able to work harder just to be able to succeed, or if it's all about is to where, well, if you fail after 7 times after you fail, you're done. You're not going to be able, or if anything, that they may say it may cost you a little bit, or you may have to wait, more time. You may have to wait 4 weeks, longer just to be able to study more or so, or if anybody warrant, or yeah, about failing though. But like with the, from President Obama and as well as for President Bush though, it's like you have at least 20 years of a U.S. president that they're going to maybe mention something about fail, as to where whenever you fail something that don't mean that, some may say is toward it, oh well, I feel totally dumb, I can't do it, I'm no good, I'm useless. And so that's just a thing though, that for any president that may warrant toward it, we may have heard that before, to where we learn by our own mistakes, but then how often do we really hear about us, to where that I know you, I have faith in you, or I have confidence in you, to where you are willing to succeed in doing a good job, even though that, yeah, you lost the game, or you didn't do very well on a test, you failed. And so sometimes some may say is to where the way that they say it too is to where almost like is that yeah, that's basically sometimes what it means is to where that whenever you fail, that you did not do well enough just to be able to earn for what you were trying to work on, or anything, or going to the next step, or improving your credit score, or anything that which call it succeed, for that makes America great. But let's just say that on averages though, is to where that with the president's speech, his State of the Union address, is that if anybody warrant, to where that yeah, that anything about, if anybody say that if you're going to be between love and hate, and anybody say that they may think of a few things that they hate and a few things that they love too, but nowadays, if we're going to be on our smartphones especially, and if anybody warns us toward it, people may warn toward it, yeah, that what are you doing wrong? But still, that I have come up to that point to where that I have had a lot of difficulties with a lot of things, and like with anybody else, that and it's saying is to where that you're going to be in that situation to where that anybody that you're talking to, or you're going to be in a room with a group of people, and think is to where that you're not doing very well. Well, that that kind of makes you feel like that you're falling behind, and for how it's handled too. If you're going to be in a meeting and then you're trying to figure out something, or you're trying to fill out a form, or maybe complete an application, or maybe if you're trying to work on something and nobody else is having any problems, and so sometimes that you kind of feel like is to where that you too, I don't know if you want to call it shy, but some kids or anybody that may say is to where they're not going to bother to ask for help, because you keep thinking that they're going to give you that look. It's like to where that's your problem, you take care of it. So what's the best solution about what we can tell our kids about, is to where situations that come up, is to where that you're afraid that if you ask for assistance, and then the teacher's going to maybe say, or maybe anybody's going to maybe say, is maybe the boss or maybe the manager is going to maybe say something like, to where that's your problem, you deal with it. But still, whenever you get hired onto a job, that you may not know, you may not be an expert on everything, but still, that if anybody say about the president though, is that if anybody say that for to make America great again, and for what goes by the requirements, and sometimes though that it seems like it requires, is to where if anybody say that, yep. And another thing I also want to mention too is about, is to where that whenever something's so hard, is to try to think of the easiest way of how to work out, to how to improve. If anybody warrant, to where anybody that may tell you is to where something's hard, then just give up. But still, that if anybody say that that's not, I don't think that that's something you should tell to the country. I'm like, if anybody say that if something's so difficult, that you just try to think of the easiest way of how to help improve the matter, and for how to fix it. Because if anybody's wonders as to where if there's any easier way, I say, well, if there was an easier way, then maybe I would be able to know about. But still, that for how well that we are willing to show great progress for the country. And so if anybody wants us toward it, the difference between hard and easy, and you're like, Warren, toward, yeah, that think of one thing that you may think is to where it's real easy. I'm like, easy, that I'm like, yeah. So easy to where I'm like, yeah, that like we talk about, anybody, anybody who may not speak that source of English language or so, or will be able to figure it out, or anything like that. But anyway, but talk about for President Donald Trump right here, for the State of the Union address. So this right here is really what I want to mention right here is if anybody wants is toward it between succeed and as well as for fail. And so if anybody would say that yeah, for abbreviation for what you call for succeed and for fail, and for FAIL, and if anybody wants is toward some people that may think about as toward that basically means is toward that yeah, for it's not for but for a ill alertness or something like that, for an ill alertness, that yeah, whenever you fail, that basically shows right here is like it's all in red, and kind of looks bad on that person as to where, well, it failed, well, you didn't do a good job, or job incomplete, or anything like that. But the way I think about it, though, is to where if anybody will warrant to where that for the State of the Union address, that the things that I would also expect to hear about the president by the year 2018, what I mentioned before, is to where other than about jobs, though, is to where that for how all Americans, for how all of us who are even registered voters, about what we all can do just to be able to make a difference. And if anybody says that, yeah, it's been about 2 weeks since you posted up your last video activity talking about that, and anything else that you want to mention also. But still, that has anybody ever said it's easy? It's essential. It's easy. It's a piece of cake. Yeah. Just pick up the phone and do it, or pick up your pencil and do it. Like, well, really, has anybody ever mentioned that it was easy? Maybe not everything is going to be easy, but then it's still that for what's required just to be able to show great progress, great succeeds. And if anybody wants us toward it, yeah, that so far as our children and the American people, and if anybody wants us toward it, yeah, that for those who are that curious and just to know about the situation, and if anybody wants us toward that, what's the best? If anybody wants us toward it, yeah, that what is the best ways of how to talk about something? Something that happened nearly a year ago, or something that's what you call like a long story, and people are able to ask us toward it, to talk about it especially. But still, that if anybody wants us toward it, anything that you set your mind for, anything that you work hard on, and you automatically think is toward that it really is. If anybody's really going to take interest in any of that for what you do, and you're like Warren to where, well, really, anything that you're going to be working on, and you keep thinking about is to where, oh, I don't think that's a good idea, or that it's useless. I don't think anybody's going to like it. But still, that with anything that I want to mention about is to where about presidents, which I'm sure President Trump will be a good president. But still, that on the other hand, that if anybody warns us to where that please don't point the finger at each other. I'm sure that just to make America great again, that we also need to think about is toward it. Think about where we are now, and then from where we're planning on going, from where we're going. But for anybody who's going to be what you call, think about for jobs, and as well as anything else that's going on in the economy for the United States of America also. and top up for accounts. And so from about 4 days ago, I mainly want to talk about for mistakes though. So if anybody will warrant toward it, yeah, that you may have heard that before toward it. Yeah, we all make mistakes, but just think about it toward, is everybody responsible for fixing their own mistakes or correcting their own mistakes or getting a better understanding about their mistakes, or maybe if it's really even a mistake and anybody that may warrant to where you start talking about something or start working on something and somebody else finds it very useful and you think that you may think that it was a mistake at the beginning, but until that somebody takes interest in that. But anyway, that's just the way it is, huh? That's to where that whenever if you got an idea about something or you think about something and then think as to where that how do you know if it's a good idea or a bad idea? And, some that may say, well, try it out, or some that may say, well, think twice before you do it, or they really just explain about for how you think it's going to work before it's actually done, before the work is in progress. But anyway, that's what I have to say. And thanks for watching, everyone. That's already coming up on already half an hour, over a half an hour since I've been talking. But anyway, but talk about for the American people what makes for what makes America great again for the United States of America, and based on the writing and if anybody warrant toward it, yeah, that if you think is toward it, you may not have had what you call the best writing skills or the best reading skills, but anybody like the president will maybe warrant toward it what it takes to show great progress each and every time. And even though if it is a long story, is to where they say, well, do the best you can. You may mention about, well, I didn't put a whole idea. Well, just don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. And so the first thing that somebody may say is to her that, well, I am not an expert or I am not a professional, but I would probably estimate as to where that, yeah, for what we all can do is just to be able to make this country great again. And I really just think though is toward that is to think about is toward that for each and every one of us is toward the things that we use every day, and then just think about is toward that anything that requires research and as well as understanding about how it works, and then knowing about each and every one of us is that whenever we go to school and get our education and go to work, that just think about is to where maybe the country is not just about what you call paying what you call that professional a decent paycheck just to bill for the work that they do, and maybe that there's something else that they're looking for also other than truth and honesty. It could also maybe mean is toward understanding about the reason about is toward about for being American, for making this country great again. There also inquires to it for how other people know about our work, and it is for how that we are willing to succeed for the next steps for top of the next step for making the country great again, for anything that could involve us toward it. Yeah, long story to make the long story short. Yeah, I only started with a GED until I went to college, or another situation also could be is toward it that you were what you call you were not self-employed at the beginning. You did not have a large business to start out with. So if anybody warrant toward it, yeah, anything about what you call like with the prison, like to mention, but mainly want to talk about for accounts though, and as well as for mistakes and as well as for failures. So if anybody warrants us toward it, yeah, that really anything that's I say about what does the president have to say about that, and the things that I would also expect by the year 2018 also is toward that for the United States of America, that anything about whenever graduation and birthday come all at the same time, and sometimes you just like warrant toward that I call it the gold monument, but some people that may look at it to where that any day in particular to where really, that it's graduation and birthday that all come at the same time. Okay, more likely it's just what you call they'll give you a medal for it if anything, or they'll give you a trophy or anything like that. But they're not going to grant you a whole lot of money or anything like that. But still, that if anybody that may warrant toward it, the things that you would expect you by the year 2018, and also besides graduation and for a job though, is to where that how other people know my work at the most part. So let's just say that anything that I can come up with, especially, and if anybody warrants us toward it, anything about helping other people understand about what you do as a designer, especially. So I'm going to say about the president. What's the chances are that that the president or anybody else in Congress is going to pick you for what you call the known professional for a future job? By the year 2018, that they're going to maybe ask you to work freelancer work or maybe work a job and think about this job that you never thought that was going to happen. It's like, yeah, you just give it 12 months. Give it 12 months and see what happens, or give it 6 months and see what happens. But anyway, but knowing about for what makes America great again. But anyway, God bless everyone, and God bless America, and have a great day.